Well, hello everybody and welcome back to a typically sort of windy kind of Sunday look around the yard and gardens. I am, well, probably not surprisingly to you at this point, amazingly excited about what's going on with the Three Sisters patch. So I think we're going to start there, but hopefully I'll remember to show you something that I've wanted to show you for the last couple of weeks before we're done. So I mean, stick around and there might just be a surprise at the end. All right, let's go check out the Three Sisters patch. I was out here this morning and it was just absolutely glorious. All of these flowers that you can see in the middle of the squash here, these are our male happily pollinating flowers. They were just wide open. As we go through the day and it heats up a little bit, they kind of look a little wilty, but come morning these things are going to look fantastic again. And you can see just barely in the middle the beans are going crazy. I'm going to try and climb in there today so you can get a slightly better view. And then looking at the corn, which is ultimately the point of this whole patch, we can see even these stunted ones. And I was checking, and you can kind of see now because I'm getting it a little earlier, but bet your theory about the shade was right. They are getting a little bit less sun up front here, so that is probably why these are so stunted. But tassels have opened up, starting to spread that pollen out. And as I go down the row, where we start to see the taller corn, we're seeing more and more silk on these plants. And some of these things are a couple feet taller than I am, which is just blowing me away. I am so thrilled. But we'll look down here, and we've got some very nice looking silks there. That kind of looks like pollen on it, and that looks like silk on another ear behind it, same stalk. So we can definitely see some advantage to having given them that extra space this year. And if we look further down, that still looks to me like the beginning of a third ear. So this could be incredibly productive compared to well, previous corn attempts, right? Those of you who have watched over the years or who have gone back will have seen that most of my attempts to grow corn, especially out here, have been kind of sad and pathetic. But this year, you know, with the Three Sisters garden growing the way it is, I gave the squash what I felt was plenty of room in the middle. Clearly, I could have used a little bit more room in there. Beans, I thought, had ample room. Again, we're going to crawl in from the other side because it's just easier to access. But they are really productive, even though they're kind of cramped out. And the pumpkins, look at this. This is just crazy. Look at the size of those leaves. Woof. That is just wonderful. I was crawling through here yesterday or the day before, and I thought I even found the beginning of a couple of nice looking pumpkins. We'll crawl back to the front and I'll show you some of those spaghetti squash a little bit later on here, but we got the beginnings of some pumpkins. Now these guys are never going to get that big because they're just the baby pumpkins, the sugar pie pumpkins, nice sweet pumpkins, so never really going to be carvable size, but they are, however, incredibly delicious. We've got the sprawl here on the potato patch. This is just crazy. Oh, and looking back through here, hopefully it's coming up on the camera, underneath that pumpkin flower we have a little pumpkin ball. Looking back over there a little bit, maybe it's showing up on the camera. I'm afraid to zoom because it just makes my shaky hand all that much worse, but there's another pumpkin in there. I'm pretty sure I read that I shouldn't be growing squash and potatoes too close together. And again, I felt I was giving them adequate room. In future years, I guess this potato patch is going to have to go somewhere else. And I kind of think the Three Sisters patch is going to get extended all the way back to the end of the bunker, so that when we do get around to growing corn in here again, I'll just have more of it that's getting that sunlight and won't be getting blocked by those remaining spruce trees, because it will take me a few more years to get those down. I'm in no hurry and we don't even have a fireplace, so it just kind of gets given to neighbors or burned in our fire pit when the opportunity presents itself. Some nice looking silks on some of these corn though. Love the coloring. I believe this is peaches and cream corn. So a nice sweet corn, very excited about that. Oh, look at that down here. That kind of looks like the beginning of a pumpkin to me. Good solid start too, so that is very, very nice. All right, as always, the wind is picking up, so I suppose I should get a move on here. I believe this vine belongs to our spaghetti squash. Yeah, we can see there's one that's probably not going to make it, but that one's looking good so far. Got that one there, looking good so far. That's very exciting. Again, like I say, when we get to looking at the front of that log, I'll show you some very exciting spaghetti squash. But I was hoping to crawl through the corn here. I got to be really careful because I don't want to step on squash or pumpkins. But we can see, hopefully we can see, that the beans have been incredibly productive, even if they have, you know, somewhat flopped over from their own weight. We had a lovely pile of beans with dinner last night. We're going to have another lovely pile of beans with dinner tonight from the looks of things. And yeah, it's going to be great when this all starts to die off and I can kind of see just how many pumpkins and squash are in all of this. So I'm going to extract myself from the garden and we'll look at this from one more angle, because how can you not show off this particular angle here? We've got some very nice spaghetti squash kind of forming down in the shade there, and there's another one kind of hiding under there. And we've got that one there. Oh, I am so impressed with that one there. This log feature definitely seems to be a good idea. If nothing else, it's allowing me the opportunity to see just how many of these are forming. Oh, well, now here we can see that one's not going to make it, is it? There's the one last week I was saying I didn't think had much of a prayer, but down here we've got some fresh ones forming there. And I think that vine actually belongs to the pumpkin. So we'll just have to see what kind of fruit forms on that. But yeah, so you can see why I'm so impressed with the Three Sisters garden this year. Might actually end up making a blog entry on it. I don't put much on that blog, but I don't know. This is exciting enough to me that I think it's worth documenting. So we'll move from there right next door to the tomato patch. This has been very educational this year as well, and I am quite pleased to say that we're starting to see more and more actual fruit forming. This broad ripple that I'm always just so proud of, this whole sprawl, and you can recognize this one from the other tomatoes because of its particular leaf shape. I can tell these even when they come up as volunteers because of that, but this whole sprawl here, this is all one tomato plant. Excuse me. And we can see there are flowers just all over this thing. It's an incredibly productive variety. I am definitely going to be saving seeds from this year, and I am definitely going to be trying to grow it outside from seed in the ground, just to see if getting that earlier connection to the soil biology and being naturally hardened off by growing up in the sun makes enough of a difference to be worth it, or if I should still be planting those inside and babying them a little bit. And then in here we've got some other wonderful fun varieties. I thought I saw, yeah, looking down here, God, that's either going to be one of the Grape Tomatoes, or that might be the Sweet Juliet hybrids that, well, I've been growing those since Penticton. They're just a wonderful paste variety tomato, and I don't know, I think I'd be heartbroken if I didn't have those in my garden anymore. The Sweet Aroma hybrid comes very close, but it's not the same. And that Sweet Juliet is, that's one of the ones that sold me on, well, maybe these tomato things aren't so bad. So that's awesome. Getting some nice little marbles there. Nice little marbles there. I believe this chunk of the garden is all the Better Boy hybrids. So we should see a kind of a consistent production. Look at that cluster of flowers. That's crazy. So next couple of months obviously are crucial especially with the short season here, and there are a few folks that are already suggesting it's going to be a shorter than usual season because of some wildflowers and such that they've seen that indicate it's going to be an early fall. I'm learning to pay attention to those tails and such too, because wow, they're surprisingly accurate. You know, who knew? These are those walking onions though. I just love these things. I'm so glad I brought those forward. It's really enjoyable just watching them develop with the better sunshine that they're getting here, instead of, again, hidden behind more of those spruce. Just, see, they've got a second one going off of there. I love it. It's so much fun. A whole bunch of tomatoes forming here. Now in the back of the patch, these should be our Cherokee purples. And I will be anxiously waiting and watching for the first one to take some nice deep color. Oh, from this angle here, and I don't know if it's going to show on the camera, but I just discovered a new cluster of tomatoes. Let's see if we can find those from a better angle. Oh, they're almost hidden from over here. See, it's so much fun, you know, like that's again one of my favorite things about gardening is it's like an Easter egg hunt every day. Oh, there's a couple of really nice clusters. That's going to be a really funky looking tomato when that grows up. Hopefully that'll be my first one to ripen, so I can keep growing some really funky looking tomatoes. Nice looking cluster here. I was a little worried about this patch because there are no stakes, there are no cages. These are just wild tomatoes growing in the wind and doing pretty good. You got a nice random dill here, setting some color. It's going to be real pretty in a few days. And then I keep talking about that other dill. I told you it was there, right? Didn't plant those. Volunteers. It's another joy of gardening in the same place year after year after year. You start to get more and more of your footprints. Things that you tend to grow every year start growing on their own because the seeds just fall. And that is not a scraggly looking dill. I mean, this comes up to past my belly button. So for a volunteer plant, you know, pretty exciting to be able to crop something for free, like absolutely for free. Oh, prehistoric sized dragonflies around here this year. What an incredible diversity of insect life this year. We've got frogs like you wouldn't believe. It's just incredible. I mean, yeah, there are a lot of mosquitoes, but I like to think the frogs are helping. Starting to see more of the parsleys that I planted around the fence line in the tomatoes here. Oh, there we go, some way at the bottom there. They are, for the most part, being smothered out by these uncaged tomatoes. So on that aspect, there's a little bit of parsley in there. On that aspect, it's not necessarily working out as brilliantly as I had hoped. So like maybe dill in the future might be a better fence line idea. But I'm also thinking, as I believe I have mentioned, that next year I'm going to do tomatoes around the three edges and leave this center and front open for onion growth. And we'll see how they do. And I was also thinking I might put some borage in here to encourage, well, pollinators. For those of you who don't know what borage is, I'm just going to show you something that Shocks has grown out front, because this has blown me away and absolutely sold me on this plant forever and ever without question. So yeah, let's go check that out. So up here, we're in one of Shocks' fairy garden patches. And this is mostly a wildflower thing, as far as I know. Anyway, I don't really kind of track what she's growing up here, but I have fallen in love with these flowers here. And it turns out these are borage. Now, it's a lovely sort of fuzzy plant, and I have this strange personal belief that fuzzy plants have medicinal value. We have an encyclopedia of healing herbs that I have yet to look this up in, but even if it doesn't have any kind of medicinal value, you see that big fat bumbler on there? It has great pollinator value. And without knowing kind of what my plans were for the year, Shocks has made an excellent demonstration here, because we see planted in amongst all of these other plants, you know, a nice row of borage, and they seem to be growing fairly well. However, when I turn to the right here, I can see a couple of borage plants that are basically by themselves and doing an excellent job of demonstrating what Jason Malk was going off about as plant flex. When the plant sees that it's got room to spread out, it throws out more leaves, it tries to catch more sun, and it's just catching more and more of that energy. So it has it to A, put carbon and sugars into the ground to feed the soil biology, and B, put carbon in and such into growth, you know, grab that nitrogen from the air, grab that hydrogen from the air, and look at how many flowers this thing is producing. And standing back right now, I can count 4 bees on this thing. So that is incredible. These borage plants seem to produce flowers all season long. They're one of the earliest things to come up if they're planted out nice and early, and they just keep growing. It is amazing. So I am going to be including borage plants in, I want to say individual-ish plantings in my, well, other garden areas, just to kind of encourage those pollinators. Look at the size of the stems coming up out of the ground there. So, you know, one seed given room can produce something that looks like that, or, you know, given less room can produce something that looks like that. That's still going to give us lots of pollen for our natural pollinators, and when we get into honeybees, you know, definitely going to provide for them, but it's not giving us anywhere near as much as this monster is. So yeah, when I'm planting for honeybees in the future, this is definitely something that I'm going to be planting a lot of. And I think in the meantime, as I'm trying to encourage pollinators to come visit my vegetable and produce garden, I'm going to be planting a few of them out there too, just to keep the pollinators checking in on the garden, checking in on, you know, what flowers are popping right now. Because from this angle here, I can see, you know, things that are almost to seed and things that are about to just open as flowers. We've got freshly opened flowers. This sucker is a pollen buffet. So yeah, bigger, better borage by giving it a little bit more room, and talk about encouraging pollination. So any feedback on that would be great. I know a few of you watch my channel as well as Shocks' channels. So yeah, I would love to hear what you have to say about borage, and I really do need to remember to go look that up in the encyclopedia. All right. And then finally, for the more patient amongst you, you may have joined up to this channel thinking that I was a pepperhead, and you may find yourself very surprised by the contents of my garden this year, because there are really no peppers out there, right? Well, the aphid wars were rough and pretty much killed absolutely everything that I had. But I say pretty much because, as it turns out, we have some undead peppers in the collection. We have some zombies that have decided to resurrect themselves and have survived coming back outside. So I'm going to show you the surprise pepper crop. All right. So here we have the long dead, and clearly so, Bad Brains pepper with the oregano planting. This thing's what, 2 years old, but if we push the happy oregano to the side, we see that pepper plant. I mean, I had given this thing up for dead. I hadn't watered it for probably a month and a half, maybe even 2 months, because it all, to me, looked like that. You know, there's really no point in watering that. Even the oregano just looked completely dead. And then I went down a few weeks back, and lo and behold, there were little tiny itty bits of growth coming up on the base of the stem, and look how much it's produced. I mean, there's no way that I am going to get an actual pepper off of this plant, but it is wonderful to see that it has come back, and the oregano that's growing in there is fantastic as well, because it's just about time for me to get on transplanting and cloning out some more oregano, because then I can take that inside. Not too much of a pest issue, that one. I don't find that the aphids really attack the oregano. So yeah, the pepper plant, however, I ain't taking that back in. When a pepper plant comes outside, it stays outside. That's just all there is to it. But that is not the only pepper plant. We also have these 2 peppers that somehow survived. Now, unfortunately, their tags have not survived, and I don't really know which is which anymore. We can see this one where it's mainly growing off the stem. We're not seeing any real flower or fruit production, but I was looking at this other one, a little on the yellowy side, with shocks earlier today, and I was amazed. There's a little one there. There's an itty bitty one there. And if we look, there's a nice forming one here. So this, after 2 years, might actually produce something for us. Looks like I need to water it, but you know, no surprise there, but we might actually get some peppers from plants that I thought were completely dead. That just blows me away, and I clearly need to reevaluate my pepper pre-start situation, but wow. So if you're into prayers, wishes, hopes, and dreams, and all that stuff, throw whatever you got at these couple of pods, and with a little bit of luck, in a month or so, y'all can watch me burn my face off while I try them, because I know that these guys are scorpion somethings. I suspect that is a scorpion bootla, and one of them might be a scorpion clamshell. Bootla clamshell? I don't know. But I know that they're hotter than I've had all year, because I have no other peppers growing. So, yeah. Zombie peppers. And then a shot for our closing clip. I'll leave you with this one. Let's see if you can find the only apple on the tree. This tree's funny. It basically only produces every 2 years. This year, supposed to be a production year, but we had a really weird late frost and strange winter and strange spring, so it gave us 1. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this week's update. Got some interesting things coming up this week. Hopefully I'll share with you. I'd like to update the aquaponics and the aloe veras, because turns out, yeah, I can really grow those downstairs. So yeah, let's look forward to that. And otherwise, much love, everybody. Happy gardening, play safe, and I'll see you next time.